is Bob Beckel,
This is Cal Thomas, a conservative who is pro-life,
a liberal who once worked for Jimmy Carter,
who favors smaller government,
who believes in big government.
and in a town full of cheap shot artists, I've never heard Cal take a cheap shot.
But even when he's wrong, he's likable. And this is Common Ground.
And this is Common Ground.
Welcome again to Common Ground, a video version of Bob Beckel's and my bi-weekly USA Today column in which we try to figure out how to bridge Washington's partisan divide. Well, Bob, Washington is never more divided than it is over war, certainly Vietnam and now again Afghanistan. General McChrystal cashiered by President Obama, I think, properly and certainly legally for his comments to Rolling Stone magazine, bordering on insubordination, and those of his staff members. What do you think about that? Is this a leadership problem? Or?
Well, look, it couldn't have come at a worse time. Yeah. Look, we're just about to do an offensive into Kandahar, which is going to be very important to this whole thing. And the fact that the thing that amazes me is McChrystal gives a 4-week interview to the Rolling Stone. I mean, what are we kidding?
Mother Jones magazine.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, what did you think you were going to get out of that? Something positive about a war? But the point is that now the decision's been made to go with Petraeus. I thought from Obama's standpoint, even though I wish McChrystal had stayed, it was a very smart decision on Obama's part because Petraeus really is the sort of the godfather of the whole counterinsurgency program. But here's the argument starting to build up. Is this going to be a counterinsurgency campaign still by next year, or are we going to go to counterterrorism, which was Joe Biden's idea initially, and that was the fight within the administration? Right.
Well, speaking of Joe Biden, of course, I'm always amused by how Democrats and sometimes Republicans view a particular general depending on who is in the White House. Now, Joe Biden was all over General Petraeus during the surge in Iraq, said it wasn't going to work, it was a failure, basically called him a liar, and the Senate had to be argued into distancing itself from that MoveOn.org full-page newspaper ad, General Petraeus, don't betray us. So now, though, Petraeus is going to be the head guy in Afghanistan, all of a sudden Biden and the rest of the Democrats saying, he's the second coming.
You know, you always like to bring up history, don't you? You know, let's get back to the current event. Listen, there's a number of things that have happened in the last few days in Afghanistan which are important. One is there's a report out that special forces have killed and captured a number of Afghani leadership, of the Afghani leadership, which is very important. There's a lot of good things going on there that don't seem to get reported, one. Two, the question really, though, is for Petraeus. Look, McChrystal had established relationships with these various tribal leaders, and relationships are what matters when you get into the counterinsurgency movement. The question is, can Petraeus get up to speed on that? And of course, the other issue is the infamous president of Afghanistan. Yeah. And is he as corrupt as we think he is? Yes.
And his brother, too. Yeah.
His brother's even worse, a drug runner. Yeah. The question is, can Petraeus work with him and make things happen?
Well, there's an even bigger question. There's still, as there always is in these wartime incidents, whether withdrawal is a policy or a strategy. A lot of people now calling for withdrawal. Latest USA Today poll shows, I think, 58% of the public think we ought to get out. But getting out is not a strategy. It may be a policy, but it's not a strategy. Getting out brings us what? It allows the Taliban and Al-Qaeda to take over the country again and use it as a base for launching terrorist acts around the world. How do we win this? That's the question.
Well, I'm not sure there is a question of winning here in the classical sense of winning, but, you know, Obama has started to tamp that down now in the last few days. He's talked about, well, everybody's obsessed with this withdrawal thing. Let's talk about what's going on in the field now.
But he set the withdrawal date, of course.
Yes, he did. But Petraeus got on Capitol Hill for his hearings to take over this job. And by the way, Petraeus, can you imagine leaving that nice big house in Tampa and going to Kabul? But anyway, I think they're both trying to downplay that. It depends on what's going on the ground. It's too important. But look, in the end, if nothing else happens, we still need to stay in Afghanistan on the border with Pakistan. The other thing that I would say is that Karzai has decided, the president of Afghanistan, that he still wants to negotiate a deal with the Taliban. Who's he kidding?
Yeah, I agree. And you're right about the border with Pakistan. We cannot allow Al-Qaeda to get its hands on those nuclear weapons. We'd really be in deep trouble there. I don't know if this thing takes 5 years or 10 years or 20 years. It is going to be a long war. It's not only in Afghanistan. Because an ideology, as extreme Islam is, it does not know any border or uniform. It is something that crosses borders. It's like a virus.
You know, the Afghanistan has been a death trap for centuries, going back to your friend Genghis Khan. Did you covered him, didn't you?
That's what I thought. Top advisor.
That's what I thought. Okay, but you know, and then you had the Brits, and then you had the Russians, and now we're there. The question is, can we reverse the pattern? I think we can. I'm still hopeful about it. And frankly, I'm not sure the alternative is very acceptable, which is to say you may have to pull out of Afghanistan, but not completely. It's just not possible.
Well, I'll tell you one thing I think we agree on, Bob. If they ever get those minerals that have been recently discovered, apparently, in Afghanistan, possibly over $1 trillion worth of minerals, I think they ought to pony up to pay for the war, just like we agreed that the Iraqis with their oil reserves ought to pay for that war. We ought to be tired of practically ruining our economy trying to help other people and not getting anything in return.
I could not agree with you more. The only thing I'm worried about is the Karzai is going to figure out a way to get that, too, although it's kind of hard to get $1 trillion worth of resources out of the ground and carry it in a truck out of the country. All right, listen, thanks for watching, and we want you to check out our column in the paper and on USA Today's opinion blog at usatoday.com. Thanks for tuning in, and come back for the next installment of Common Ground.